At 85, Cliff Richard has spent more than 6 decades in the music industry, witnessing its triumphs, transformations, and personal friendships that shaped history. Born Harry Roger Webb in Lucknow, India on October 14, 1940, he would go on to become one of Britain's most beloved musical icons. From the birth of British rock and roll to the era of global pop superstardom, Cliff's journey has been extraordinary. Now, in his later years, he reflects with honesty and warmth about fellow musicians who left a lasting impression on his life, particularly George Harrison, whose quiet spirituality and artistic depth profoundly influenced him. Humble beginnings in post-war Britain. Cliff Richard's early life was shaped by the dramatic changes following Indian independence. In 1948, his family moved from Lucknow back to United Kingdom, settling in modest conditions in Cheshunt. Post-war Britain was still rebuilding, and opportunities were limited for many families. Yet, in those humble surroundings, young Cliff discovered music that would ignite his passion for performing. The electrifying sounds of Elvis Presley and Little Richard fascinated him. Their energy and rebellious spirit inspired Cliff to dream of a musical career. What began as admiration soon turned into determination, setting him on the path toward becoming a pioneer of British rock and roll. The breakthrough that changed British music. In 1958, Cliff Richard's career exploded with the release of his debut single Move It, often regarded as the first authentic British rock and roll record. The song introduced a raw, energetic sound that captivated young audiences across the UK. Performing alongside his band The Shadows, Cliff quickly became a sensation. His dynamic stage presence and distinctive voice helped define a new era of British pop music. Before the emergence of the Beatles, Cliff Richard was already leading the youth music revolution. His success proved that Britain could produce its own rock stars rather than simply importing American trends. Teen idol of the early 1960s. As the early 1960s unfolded, Cliff Richard's popularity soared. Together with The Shadows, he released a string of chart-topping hits that cemented his status as a teen idol. Songs such as Living Doll, Please Don't Tease, and The Young Ones became anthems of youth culture. Cliff's clean-cut image and charming personality made him immensely popular with fans and media alike. His music captured the optimism of a new generation coming of age. During this time, Cliff wasn't just a singer. He was a cultural symbol representing the excitement and possibilities of modern pop music in Britain. Surviving the British invasion. When the Beatles launched the global British invasion in the mid-1960s, many earlier stars faded from the spotlight. Yet Cliff Richard managed to adapt and remain relevant. Rather than competing directly with the new wave of bands, he diversified his style. Moving beyond pure rock and roll, he embraced pop ballads and lighter musical arrangements. This flexibility allowed him to maintain a strong presence in the industry while trends shifted dramatically. Cliff's resilience during this period demonstrated his ability to evolve as an artist. Instead of being overshadowed by the new generation, he continued building a lasting and respected career. A spiritual turning point. The mid-1960s also marked a profound personal transformation for Cliff Richard. His conversion to Christianity deeply influenced both his life and his music. Faith became a guiding force behind many of his creative decisions. While continuing to perform mainstream pop, Cliff also recorded gospel-inspired songs and albums reflecting his beliefs. This spiritual perspective distinguished him from many other performers of the era. Rather than chasing controversy or rebellious imagery, Cliff focused on uplifting messages and sincere expression. His commitment to faith resonated with millions of listeners who admired his authenticity and integrity in an industry often associated with excess and scandal. Reinvention in the 1970s and 1980s. Cliff Richard's ability to reinvent himself became particularly evident in the 1970s and 1980s. After more than a decade in the spotlight, he achieved another surge of popularity with new musical styles. Songs like Devil Woman, We Don't Talk Anymore, and Dreaming introduced him to younger audiences. These hits blended contemporary pop sounds with Cliff's signature vocal style. His continued success across multiple decades was remarkable in an industry known for short-lived fame. Radio stations and television programs regularly featured his work, proving that Cliff Richard was not simply a nostalgic figure, but a living legend still shaping popular music. Extraordinary achievements and honours. Over the course of his extraordinary career, Cliff Richard has sold more than 250 million records worldwide, making him one of the best-selling music artists in history. He holds the unique distinction of achieving a top 5 hit in the United Kingdom during every decade from the 1950s through the 2010s. In recognition of his contributions to music and charity, he received a knighthood in 1995 and became Sir Cliff Richard. Numerous awards followed, including honours from the British phonographic industry and the Ivors Academy. These achievements reflect not only his talent, but also his dedication and professionalism throughout a remarkably long career. A quiet friendship with George Harrison. Among the many musicians Cliff encountered over the years, George Harrison left a particularly deep impression. Known as the Quiet Beatle from the Beatles, George possessed a thoughtful and introspective personality that resonated with Cliff. Their meetings were often brief and informal, usually occurring at charity events or industry gatherings. Yet those encounters revealed a man searching for deeper meaning beyond fame. Cliff remembered one evening when George played the sitar for a small group in a quiet corner of a room. The moment was mesmerizing, not a performance for applause, but a heartfelt expression of emotion and spirituality. Lessons from a spiritual musician, Cliff Richard, often reflected on how George Harrison's spiritual outlook influenced his own thinking about music. George's willingness to explore philosophical ideas and incorporate them into his art encouraged Cliff to pursue deeper meaning in his songs as well. When George passed away in 2001, Cliff felt a surprising sense of loss. Although they were not close companions, George's presence had left a lasting impact. Cliff admired his courage to step away from the relentless spotlight. While Cliff loved performing and never fully withdrew from fame, he respected George's decision to seek peace in quieter moments with his guitar and his garden. Legacy of 2 different paths. Looking back at his long journey, Cliff Richard now views his connection with George Harrison with gratitude. They were very different personalities navigating the same demanding world of music. One thrived on stage and cherished the connection with audiences. The other often sought solitude and spiritual reflection. Yet both shared a commitment to authenticity and sincerity in their work. Cliff believes that George's legacy reminds modern artists that music should come from the soul rather than merely chasing chart success. Their quiet friendship remains a meaningful chapter in the broader history of popular music. Conclusion: wisdom from a lifetime in music. At 85, Cliff Richard continues to perform and inspire audiences around the world. His reflections on George Harrison reveal more than nostalgia. They reveal wisdom gained through decades of experience. Both men pursued harmony not only in music, but also in life. Cliff's gratitude for their shared moments highlights the power of human connection beyond fame or industry rivalry. As one of the most enduring figures in British pop history, Cliff Richard stands as a symbol of dedication, faith, and artistic integrity. His tribute to George Harrison reminds us that behind every legendary song lies a deeper story of friendship, reflection, and the search for meaning.